My stepmother was hiding a secret from me. A secret about my mother. A secret about my father. And one night I found out the truth. This is my story. My name is Aryan, and this story began during one of the most confusing times in my life. I was 16 years old when my mother passed away. Before that day, my life had felt normal and safe. My mother was warm and patient, and our house was always full of laughter. Even when my dad came home tired from work, my mother knew how to make him smile again. But after she died, everything changed. Our house became quiet in a way that felt heavy. The kitchen, once filled with the smell of fresh food and soft music, now felt cold and empty. My dad stopped talking as much as he used to. He spent most evenings sitting alone in the living room, staring at old photographs. For almost a year, it was just the two of us. During that time, I tried my best to be strong. I helped with cooking, cleaning, and other small things around the house. I knew my dad was hurting, and I didn't want to make life harder for him. Still, there were nights when I lay in my bed and missed my mother so much that I could not sleep. One evening, my dad called me into the living room. His voice sounded serious, and that made me nervous. "Aryan," he said slowly, "there is something important I need to tell you." I sat down across from him, wondering what kind of news could make his face look so tense. "I have met someone," he continued. For a moment, I did not understand what he meant. Then the meaning slowly became clear. "You mean a woman?" I asked. He nodded. "Her name is Nisha." My dad explained that they had met at a small bookstore in town. Nisha worked there as a manager, and they had started talking whenever he visited. Over time, their conversations became longer. Eventually, they began having dinner together. "I didn't plan for this to happen," my dad said quietly. "But she has helped me feel alive again." I didn't know what to say. Part of me understood that my dad deserved happiness. But another part of me felt uncomfortable. The idea of someone else entering our family felt strange and almost wrong. A few weeks later, I met Nisha for the first time. She came to our house on a Sunday afternoon. I remember standing near the front door when my dad introduced us. "Aryan, this is Nisha." She smiled warmly and extended her hand. "It's nice to finally meet you." Nisha looked elegant but simple. She had long black hair tied neatly behind her head and calm brown eyes. Her voice was gentle and her smile seemed sincere. Still, I felt nervous. I shook her hand politely but did not say much. During lunch, Nisha tried to start conversations with me. She asked about school, my hobbies, and the books I liked to read. I answered with short sentences. I was not trying to be rude. I just didn't know how to act around her. My dad, however, looked happier than I had seen him in a long time. He laughed more during that lunch than he had in months. Over the next few months, Nisha visited our house often. Slowly, she became part of our routine. She sometimes helped cook dinner or brought homemade sweets. My dad clearly enjoyed her company. Then one evening, my dad shared another important announcement. "Nisha and I are getting married." The words hung in the air like a sudden storm. I forced a small smile because I did not want to hurt him. But deep inside, I felt a mixture of emotions, confusion, worry, and a quiet fear that our family would never feel the same again. The wedding was small and simple. Only a few relatives and close friends attended. After that day, Nisha officially became my stepmother. At first, living with her felt strange. She tried very hard to be kind. Every morning she greeted me with a cheerful good morning. She prepared breakfast before I left for school. It often asked about my day when I returned home. But I kept my distance. Something inside me refused to fully accept her. I told myself that she could never replace my real mother. Days turned into weeks and weeks turned into months. Life slowly settled into a new routine. My dad seemed happier, and our house no longer felt as silent as before. Yet something about Nisha puzzled me. Sometimes I noticed small, unusual things. For example, she occasionally received phone calls late at night. When the phone rang, she would quietly step outside to answer it. When she returned, her expression looked serious, almost worried. Another time, I saw her reading a thick envelope of documents at the kitchen table. When she noticed me entering the room, she quickly placed the papers into a drawer. At first, I thought maybe I was imagining things. But the strange moments continued. One afternoon, I came home earlier than usual because my teacher had canceled the last class. As I walked toward the house, I saw Nisha standing near the gate talking with a man I had never seen before. They looked deeply engaged in conversation. The man handed her a small package. When Nisha saw me approaching, her reaction surprised me. She quickly placed the package into her bag and ended the conversation. "Aryan, you're home early," she said, trying to sound casual. The man gave me a quick glance before leaving. "Who was that?" I asked. "Oh, just someone from the bookstore," she replied. Her answer felt too quick. Later that evening, I couldn't stop thinking about the situation. Why had she seemed so nervous? And why had she hidden the package so quickly? Over the next few days, my curiosity grew stronger. I started paying closer attention to Nisha's behavior. The more I observed, the more mysterious things I noticed. Sometimes she left the house without telling anyone where she was going. Other times she spent long hours writing in a small notebook that she kept hidden in her bedroom drawer. I began to wonder if she was hiding something important. One night, while everyone else was asleep, I walked quietly to the kitchen to get a glass of water. As I passed the hallway, I noticed a faint light coming from Nisha's study room. The door was slightly open. Inside, Nisha was sitting at the desk, speaking softly on the phone. "I understand," she whispered. "But we must be careful. Aryan cannot know about this yet." My heart began beating faster. Can know about what? I stood frozen in the dark hallway, listening carefully. Nisha continued speaking in a worried voice. "Yes, I promised I would handle everything. Just give me a little more time." Then she ended the call. I quickly returned to my room before she could notice me. That night I could not sleep at all. My mind kept repeating the same question again and again. What secret was my stepmother hiding from me? And why did it feel like that secret might change everything in our family? After that night in the hallway, I could not stop thinking about Nisha's secret phone call. Aryan cannot know about this yet. Those words made me feel uneasy. Why would my stepmother hide something from me? And why did it sound so serious? The next morning, I tried to act normal during breakfast. Nisha was standing near the stove cooking paratha, while soft music played from the kitchen radio. My dad sat at the table reading the newspaper. Everything looked peaceful and ordinary. But to me, nothing felt normal anymore. Nisha smiled when she saw me. "Good morning, Aryan, did you sleep well?" For a moment, I wondered if she knew that I had heard her phone conversation. Her face looked calm, but I couldn't stop looking for signs of nervousness. "I slept fine," I replied. That was not entirely true. During breakfast, I watched her carefully. She talked with my dad about groceries, work, and weekend plans. She laughed naturally, just like always. If she was hiding a secret, she was very good at pretending. Later that day, I went to school, but I could not focus on my lessons. My mind kept returning to the same mystery. When I arrived home, Nisha was not at home. My dad was still at work, and the house was completely quiet. Finally, I stood up and walked toward Nisha's study room. The door was closed but not locked. I hesitated for a moment before slowly opening it. The room smelled faintly of books and perfume. Nisha had arranged everything neatly. I began searching slowly. I opened the desk drawers one by one. Then I opened the third drawer. Inside I saw a small black notebook. My heart began beating faster. This was the same notebook I had seen Nisha writing in many times. I opened the notebook. At first, the pages looked like normal daily notes. But as I turned more pages, I began to notice something strange. Some entries included dates and locations. Next to those notes were short sentences like, "Meeting confirmed, package delivered, next step soon." Then I reached a page that made my stomach tighten. At the top of the page was my name, Aryan. Underneath, there were several sentences. "Aryan is still unaware. Must protect him until the right time. Everything depends on keeping the truth hidden for now." I stared at the words, feeling a mix of shock and anger. Protect me from what? And what truth was she talking about? Suddenly, I heard the sound of a car outside the house. Quickly, I closed the notebook and placed it back inside the drawer. Then I hurried out of the study room. A few seconds later, the front door opened. "Aryan, are you home?" Nisha called. "Yes," I replied, trying to sound calm. For the rest of the evening, I watched her more carefully than ever. That night, I decided to look for more answers. Around midnight, I quietly left my bedroom again. About 20 minutes later, Nisha's bedroom door opened softly. She stepped into the hallway, wearing a coat and holding her phone. Then she left the house. My heart began racing. I grabbed my jacket and quietly followed her outside. She walked several blocks before finally stopping near a small cafe that was closed at night. A man was waiting near the corner. Even from far away, I recognized him. He was the same man who had given her the mysterious package. I hid behind a parked car, trying to hear their conversation. After a few moments, I heard something clearly. The man said, "Are you sure the boy is ready?" Nisha sighed softly. "No," she replied, "but we're running out of time." My chest tightened. They were talking about me. "Soon he will have to know the truth," the man continued. Nisha looked worried. "I promised his mother I would protect him," she said. "But I don't know how much longer I can keep this secret." I felt like the ground had suddenly disappeared beneath my feet. His mother. My mother. Why were they talking about her? When I finally returned to my bedroom, my mind was spinning with confusion. Nisha had mentioned my mother. She had said she promised to protect me. And somehow this mysterious man was also involved. The next morning, Nisha seemed quieter than usual. Finally, she said something unexpected. "Aryan, can we talk later this evening?" Her voice sounded serious. My heart beat faster. Maybe the moment had finally arrived. "Okay," I replied. The entire day passed slowly. By the time I returned home, the sun was already beginning to set. My dad had to work late that evening, so it was just Nisha and me in the house. She was sitting in the living room when I walked in. "Aryan," she said gently, "please sit down." For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Then she took a deep breath. "I know you have been curious about my behavior," she said softly. "And I think you may have already discovered some things." My eyes widened slightly. She knew. "I saw that the notebook had been moved," she continued. "And last night I think you followed me." My face grew warm with embarrassment. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. To my surprise, Nisha did not look angry. Instead, she looked sad. "It's okay," she said, "you deserve to know the truth." She stood up and walked toward a small cabinet. From inside, she took out a large envelope. When she returned, she placed it carefully on the table between us. "This secret," she said, "is not really mine. It belongs to your mother." My chest tightened when I heard those words. "My mother." Nisha nodded slowly. "Before your mother passed away, she knew something important about your future." My heart began pounding. "What do you mean?" Nisha opened the envelope and removed several documents and photographs. One photograph caught my attention immediately. It showed my mother standing next to a man I had never seen before. The man looked familiar. Suddenly I realized why. He was the same man Nisha had met outside the cafe. "That man's name is Rohan," Nisha explained. He was your mother's closest friend. Why didn't I ever meet him? I asked. Nisha sighed softly. Because your mother was protecting you. My confusion grew deeper. Protecting me from what? Nisha hesitated before answering. From the truth about your father's business. The words hit me like a sudden shock. My father. Nisha nodded. Many years ago, before you were old enough to understand. Your father became involved in some very dangerous financial activities. At first, your mother didn't know about it. But when she finally discovered the truth, she was terrified for you. I felt like my entire world was beginning to shake. What kind of activities? I asked slowly. Nisha looked at me carefully. Illegal investments and connections with people who could hurt your family if things went wrong. My heart sank. I had always respected my father. The idea that he could be involved in something illegal felt impossible. Your mother tried to convince him to stop, Nisha continued. But he refused. The money had already become too important to him. So what happened? I asked. Nisha pointed to the photograph of Rohan. Rohan helped your mother secretly gather evidence. She planned to protect you if the situation became dangerous. I stared at the documents on the table. These are the records she collected, Nisha said. But why are you involved? I asked. Nisha looked down for a moment before answering. Because your mother trusted me. I blinked in surprise. You knew my mother? Nisha nodded. Yes, we worked together at the bookstore years ago. We were very close friends. For a moment, I struggled to process everything. My mother asked me to watch over you, Nisha continued. She said if anything ever happened to her, I should protect you and make sure the truth came out at the right time. Tears began forming in my eyes. So that's why you married my father? Nisha shook her head gently. No, at first I only stayed close to the family to keep my promise. But over time, I truly began to care about both of you. All these secret meetings, she continued, were about deciding when it would be safe to reveal the truth. I looked at the documents again. What happens now? I asked quietly. Nisha gave a small sad smile. Now that you know, we can finally move forward. Forward how? She closed the envelope slowly. Your father's business activities are already being investigated. The evidence your mother collected will help the authorities understand everything. I felt a strange mixture of sadness, relief, and disbelief. For years, my mother had carried this secret alone. And Nisha, the woman I had suspected and doubted, had been protecting me the entire time. I'm sorry, I said quietly. For what? Nisha asked. For not trusting you. Nisha smiled gently. That's understandable, trust takes time. For the first time since she entered our family, I felt something different when I looked at her. Not suspicion, not distance, but respect, maybe even gratitude. In that moment, I realized something important. Sometimes the people we misunderstand the most are the ones trying hardest to protect us. And sometimes the truth behind a secret is far more complicated than we ever imagine. My stepmother had never been my enemy. She had been my guardian all along. And because of her and the promise she made to my mother, my future was finally free from the shadows of the past. Thank you for listening to this story. If you enjoyed learning English through this emotional family drama, don't forget to support the channel. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, Listen and Learn English. Like the video and share it with other English learners. Comment below what did you think about Nisha's secret on Listen and Learn English. You will discover more powerful stories, emotional dramas, and engaging English learning content designed to help you improve your listening, vocabulary, and storytelling skills naturally. Keep listening, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next story.